Hey, what's going on, guys? XD here, back again with another video. In today's video, I'm going to show you a mixing technique that I've been using for years, and this is a technique that can help you sharpen your mixing and make sure that your mixes sound better at each time. You need to understand that mixing, you just don't get good at mixing in one day. You have to keep practicing mixing. So I'm going to give you a technique that you can practice and keep doing on a regular daily basis that will help you get better at your mixes. So one thing we forget when we're making music is that we need to practice these things and apply them, not just in finished projects, but in also projects that we're just making for the purpose of practice. So what I mean by this is, sometimes you don't have to practice mixing in a track that you're going to want to release and in a track that you know it needs to be perfect, because that it's too much pressure. Sometimes you won't really learn because you're working on something that you really need to release and it needs to sound really good. So usually what I do when I'm mixing is I try and isolate certain things or certain elements in terms of like drums and a kick and a bass and strings and percussion and stuff like that, and then I mix them on their own and see if I can find the sweet spot of every instrument and make sure that it sounds good and it relates to other instruments in a perfect way. So I'm going to show you this in this project that I have over here. I'm going to go into the drum pattern. That is this one. So what I actually see is I'm missing a couple of sounds. I'm just gonna go ahead and replace those quickly so they can play. So these are just gonna be random sounds I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick that one, drop that there, pick that one, drop that there. Let me just turn up my speakers. So that's the relationship that is happening between this kick and these shakers. Okay, so firstly what I have to do is switch off everything else and just start with the kick. Then I'm going to add the first shaker. So as you can tell right now, the shaker is kind of coming out really strong and really powerful. So I'm just going to lower it up until I find a sweet spot where the shaker is audible, but at the same time the kick is in a nice place. So there's a place where you just have to figure out, and you just have to make a choice and use your ears to figure out what place it is. I cannot say exactly what level for you to put the level of the shaker, but you have to find it. And for me it sounds like it's somewhere around here. Now let me add the second one. There we go. So I'm just working with just these three elements. So that's what you need to do. Just isolate your instruments and then start working towards the relationships of those instruments. So what I have now is just this pattern over here. Let me solo that in the track. Let me just find a spot where I can loop. I'll loop over here so I can add in other instruments as we do this. So there we have pattern 5. That's our kick and these shakers, and I'm going to add this second one, which is the clap. Already you can hear the clap is coming in too strong, so I'm going to lower that and find a sweet spot where it's going to fit in nicely without me moving or changing how the other sounds are sounding like. Because you don't want sounds to jump out of the mix. That sounds fine. Now let me go to this loop. That's a nice place. And then that's it. That's all you just have to do. You have to keep practicing isolating all your sounds and try build from each sound. Add a sound, level it, add a sound, level it. Now this is just only in the mixing. This is before you get to the mastering stage. So this is a practice that you need to do. Even if you just make a couple of drums, just try, do a mixing session with just those few elements only and see how you can come up with a nice mix of just drums only without adding much more instruments. Because sometimes when you're trying to mix a whole project, you get overwhelmed with trying to mix maybe 50 instruments and 50 sounds that you need to be mixing and all that. It gets too overwhelming. So try just work with just the drums and just percussion and see how good you can get it to sound. Throw all that sounds into the mixer and then create a bus and then see how you can work towards the relationship of all these elements that you put together. Especially when it comes to drums, you need to really work on your mixing in drums, because a lot of people like to add a lot of percussion, but then they don't know how to balance them out. So you can have a good track, but then if your mixing is not so good, you are completely not going to enjoy the track, because the mixing ends up having instruments popping out and snapping out and really not sounding good. So this is all I just did. I didn't even add an effect. I didn't add anything. It's just basic mixing, but already it's sounding good. My kick sounds like it's really powerful, but the kick doesn't have anything to it. It's just a matter of this basic mixing. Now, as you can see with the waves here, everything is really low. If I can change it, you can see all the shakers and the clap, they're really low, and my kick is dominating the sound because it's supposed to be up front and forward, and everything else is just backing. That kick up is just in the back. So I hope you find this really helpful. I want to see you guys practice this and put it into exercise. Start from the basic stuff. Don't practice mixing when you have a million instruments playing at the same time. It's going to overwhelm you. Try mix a few elements, work with them. If you can make sure that your mixes between your clap and your kick and your shaker or your hats is perfect. Then you can move on to adding other elements and try and work around like that. So if you find this really helpful, leave a like down below. If you want to check out more videos like this, subscribe so you don't miss out on my future content. I'm going to check you guys out in my next video. That's been today's video. I'm X and I'm out. Peace.